All right, we're going to bring in Anthony Jeselnik. But first, this episode is brought to you by the all-new BMW 3 Series. Don't be driven by technology. Drive it. The all-new BMW 3 Series available. State-of-the-art technology. Feature after feature, the latest BMW innovations, such as the intelligent personal assistant, hands-free steering, backup assistant, and a lot more. Completely redesigned interior with gesture control. You'll love this technology. It's so simple. It's so easy to use. You'll love BMW because BMW is the best. I'm a BMW, not only fanatic, but as Kyle can attest, have you ever seen me in a car that wasn't BMW?
No.
Yeah.
I've never seen you whip another car like a BMW either.
I love, yeah. You've seen me I get the most out of the BMW. Let's just leave it there. Hurry into your local BMW center today. Test drive the all-new BMW 3 Series for yourself. I rarely say stuff like this. They're the best at making cars. I really believe that. I think they put the most care into their technology, and it's just my favorite car to drive. The all-new BMW 3 Series. Don't be driven by technology. Drive it. BMW, the ultimate driving machine, and they ain't lying. All right, let's bring in Jeselnik. So this is the second time we've done this.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Jeselnik is here. Grantland, I'm going to say like 2013, maybe you came by?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, 12, 13?
Yeah. This one's going to be a lot easier because you won't be as nervous. You know, it's like the second time around.
Point.
Yeah.
I was shaking. Yeah. I was excited to have you on the last time. And I think I pursued you as a guest, which I don't normally do.
Probably.
Normally I have third parties, but that one, I was like, I gotta get Jeselnik. I gotta dive into this guy.
Yeah, I was psyched. They even like knew who I was. You know,
yeah.
So like I ran into Kimmel a few weeks ago, and he just quoted one of my tweets to me word for word, and I was shocked. Like, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Bill Simmons and I like screenshot back and forth your tweets all the time."
That's not a lie.
Yeah,
me, Sal, Jimmy, and Daniel Callison, my old producer there. Every once in a while, you'll have a tweet. And we have this text chain that if anybody ever hacks it, we're all done. But sometimes you'd be like, man, fucking Jeselnik still doesn't give a shit. It's the best.
That's how I know
everybody gives a shit now. You're like one of like the 5 people left that just does not care.
I'm the last guy I think you can do it, but I know I might be in trouble when someone texts me, great tweet. When they don't like retweet it or comment on Twitter, they just text it to me. I'm like, oh, you can't endorse this, but you think it's funny.
Oh, it's like stealth.
Exactly.
Stealth praise.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel that way about almost all your tweets.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm like, I'm not retweeting this, but I fucking loved it.
Before I send any tweet, my thumb hovers over that send button. I'm like, and I almost always, 99% of the time, hit send, and then it's like, let's see. You really don't know. You really don't know what's going to happen.
I used to be there, and around 2012, I just couldn't do it anymore because the fear of the backlash. And the problem is when you're doing tweets like that, and if you go back and read like my tweets in 2009 and 2010, it's like you're just firing them out, and some of them hit, some of them don't, but you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And we've removed that, I don't know, that adventurous nature of Twitter, where it's like, I don't know what's going to happen here. Nobody wants to find out anymore.
It's become a press release, you know, and I worry that's going to happen with podcasts. There's going to be a way you can search podcasts. For terminology and start getting people that way. Because Twitter, it's easy. You just search like certain keywords on Twitter and you can find everyone's stuff. But podcasts, you can't. And people say some wild shit on podcasts that it could that could be the next frontier.
I always, but especially longer ones, about 80 minutes in, I start to get groggy. That's when like the weird shit starts coming out.
Exactly.
Weird basketball opinions. You start going, hey, Chris Paul's a loser. He can't win. And then you're like, whoa, did I say that? Why did I say that? At the end
I did Joe Rogan's podcast the other day, and it's like
let's hear about that.
And
what does he do? He like tries to wear you down? What is the methodology on that?
It's different with me because I'm a comic that he knows. You know, we see each other almost every day at the store, so it's a different vibe than if he's trying to really get something out of someone. And I was like, I don't really remember saying anything edgy or controversial or anything. And then I see like a blog the next day being like, Anthony Jeselnik calls Jerry Seinfeld aggressively corny. And I'm like, yikes. I did not remember saying that, but I guess I did.
That's the thing. And this really worried me with podcasts once mine started to take off during the Grantland days. Like, people can pull stuff out of context in a conversation, and it doesn't account for tone.
No.
It doesn't account for can you hear in my voice I'm joking as I'm saying it, or any of that stuff, what the context of the whole conversation was, and they can just pull out the little tidbit.
Yeah.
And that becomes the thing. I think people are wiser to that. What's weird is this is one of the few benefits of the Trump presidency, I feel like, where people are actually more suspicious of things like this now.
Absolutely.
We're in a new era where people are like, well, wait a second, are we sure that?
Yeah.
That doesn't pass the smell test, and they'll at least kind of examine it for a second.
It's crazy. I mean, even where that's going with like the deep fakes thing, where you can like make someone's face yours and do a thing that like every video is going to be suspect. Pictures are already suspect.
Yeah.
But people still believe in Jesus.
You can't fake comedy. Yeah. Jesus and comedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I read this whole story. I think it was on like Wired, one of those places, about deep fake porns, how this is like the new frontier. And these people spend days putting like Emma Watson's face on some porn actress, and then they put it out there like it's her.
Well, I've done that. Like I took like Scarlett Johansson and put my face over hers, and then I used that. You know what I mean? It's hot as hell. It's really good.
That'd be pretty creepy.
Yeah, super creepy. I haven't seen one that's not like creepy, but when they're well done, they can be funny.
How does Kyle Dunnigan do the Instagram stuff he does, where he's doing some sort of, it's not a deep fake, but he's blending
I think it's like just a really good deep fake where he also does the impression. Like it's like a deep fake done as well as it possibly can be. I think those are great.
It's super creepy. It's really good, and it's also like kind of haunting.
But it's like where Jordan Peele did that commercial, like warning you against deep fakes, where he's doing Obama's voice, and it sounds exactly like him because it's like 4-dimensional. Yeah. You know, if you can do the voice too and the mannerisms, you can do a great deep fake. But if it's just slapping an actress's face on a porn star's body, you can kind of tell. You know.
So I'm catching you at like the tail end of your press tour for your Netflix special.
It's honestly a never-ending press tour now with Netflix because you can see it forever. So it's almost, it used to be like 2 weeks out, start promoting. Now that's worthless because everyone hears Netflix and they want to go watch it right away. Yeah. So if you're even a day early, it's a waste of time.
Right. So you had one in what, 15? For them?
For 2015? Yeah. 2015 and now this new one.
What did you learn from the 2015 one that surprised you? Because you think about like the history of the TV comedy special. So it goes back to like, you're talking HBO early. Yeah. That was when comics wanted to get on initially. They get either on the Young Comedian special or get an hour or whatever. Then it became Comedy Central, half hours, maybe possibly an hour. Then it kind of shifted back to HBO and Showtime. And now it's this whole Netflix era where it pops out of nowhere. And people can see it in like 175 countries.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed everything. It's so weird that this is my 4th hour firing the maternity ward. When I went on tour after Thoughts and Prayers, that's when I noticed. You know, you see 15. Stuff on Twitter. When that came out in 2015, and then I went on the road all of 2017, all of 2018, and you just saw a much bigger audience. Not only that, but if I would mention older work, like if I mentioned Caligula or Shakespeare, which were my first 2 hours that were on Comedy Central, no one knows what I'm talking about.
Really?
Like in Thoughts and Prayers, when I talk about my Comedy Central show, most of the people who are watching it don't know what I'm referring to. Because I never say Comedy Central, I never say the name of the show. They're just Netflix people. And they really don't. Like people keep calling this my 2nd special. I'm like, it's my 4th. But it may as well be my 2nd. Is
it almost be smart for Netflix to buy the other 2 and just put them on there, so when they searched you, they all came up?
Like the first one was an album. The second one, Caligula, was a special, and I really wanted that to go to Netflix when Netflix blew up. And Comedy Central and Netflix are at each other's throats. Yeah. Neither one wants to help the other in any way. Every comic wants their stuff on Netflix, even when it's older, and Comedy Central will not budge. People like Jimmy Carr was like, you should re-record your first album, Shakespeare, as a special for Netflix. And I'm like, that material is 10 years old. Like, there's no way I want to revisit that.
And that's a big 10 years.
Yeah.
Late 2000s, people were still
actually 2010. Yeah. So yeah, that's when that came out. It would feel, telling an old joke to me just feels stale coming out of my mouth. That I don't want to do that
unless you're Jerry Seinfeld.
Paycheck. I don't know.
I'm kidding.
I don't know how no, listen, I love Seinfeld. I've never met the man, but his movie Comedian, the documentary, changed my life. To the point that I consider the day that movie was released to be the day I started doing stand-up. But I went to see a show. Yeah. Yeah. It just told you everything you had to know. As someone starting out who was like scared to go to an open mic, that movie showed Seinfeld having to go to an open mic, having to go and deal with like having no material and building, that it was just like, oh, you just do what he did. And if he can go through it, then I can't. You know, if he's that big, then I can do it. I
love that special.
Never met him. The new one, the one where he kind of goes back and revisits?
No, I love the Comedian.
Oh, Comedian. Yeah, that movie, I watch it once a year.
I feel like that was before its time. Because if that came out now, it would be a much bigger deal.
Yeah.
Because you would be able to push it better. I forget what channel had it. Was it Comedy Central? No,
it was a movie. It was a movie in just a couple theaters.
And then you rented it. It was like back in the rental pay-per-view days.
It was one of those where you couldn't eat. It wasn't even streaming forever.
Yeah.
You had to buy the DVD on Amazon or something. Now it's on Netflix. But I think if it had just debuted on Netflix today, it would be huge. It would be huge.
I saw Seinfeld twice in the 80s. They're talking like, because he was like one of the original Letterman guys.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing it for 40 years. I think when you hit like your 60s and you've been phenomenally successful, I don't understand. A lot of comedy comes from, you know, either self-loathing or you're mad about something or there's some sort of conflict that it's coming out of. And if your conflict's been removed from your life, I don't know how you do comedy.
That's a tough thing. Like I ran into Chris Rock and I was like, what are you working on stand-up wise?
Yeah.
He was like, nothing. Like I was on tour with him for a while. He's like, I'm doing this special and then I owe Netflix another one. He's like, maybe this summer I'll start working on the new material. And I see him, this is a year later, and I'm like, what have you been doing? He's like, nothing. He goes, I'm too happy.
Yeah, that's
I'm too happy to be
working
on
death for comedy?
right now. Yeah, it really is. Like right now, I should be working on the new hour right now, but I'm so satisfied with this last one that I'm like, I need to wait till that wears off.
Lap.
Exactly. I need to wait till it wears off to go out because I'm so proud of that like going up and bombing with new material is so unappealing. But at a certain point, I'll be like, no, let's go. I need this.
Your manager should have paid some writer to do just total hit piece on the special.
Oh,
get your juices flowing.
That would have done it. That would have done it for sure.
This piece of shit. How do we keep allowing this guy?
Yeah,
You'd be like, what?
I keep waiting for something to happen that'll tick me off.
People are afraid of you now.
Yeah, but usually still something makes me mad enough that I'm like, I'm going to go prove everyone wrong, and I haven't found that yet.
So this is a compliment and an insult. Maybe this will get your juices going for the next special.
Please.
You're the greatest roast battle judge of all time.
Thank you.
It's a compliment and an insult.
I don't see how it's an insult.
Okay.
I think why would it be an insult?
Well, it's my favorite show, so.
I mean, that's an insult to you, I think. Like you should have better taste in television. But that's my favorite thing in the world to do because you can't prepare. Like the
and you're just sitting there for 10 minutes and all you have to do is just one killer joke.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see your brain like just percolating and then it gets to you and you're just like ready.
Yeah. I'm so excited. And like the work I put into doing a roast is infinite compared to the work you put into doing roast battle. Roast battle, you just show up. But the roast is like months of banging your head against the wall looking for the best possible joke.
And the roast thing, it's like we had too many of them. It became like professional wrestling where the guys kept going higher and higher to jump off whatever ladders. And then it was like a scaffolding. And then it's like at some point, the only way you can really shock me is to jump off like a 50-foot, 5-story building and do a belly flop on somebody. Like at some point, there's no more line to cross.
Yeah, I really feel like they peaked with Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Like I did Trump, Sheen. Trump, it was great. Sheen was great. And Roseanne was like, it didn't matter. Like I remember doing a club the week after the Roseanne roast and it was like half filled. And I was like, I can't believe this. I thought for sure it would just be packed and people just didn't watch that roast. And now it's just gotten very hard to book them. Twitter changed things a lot. People get real-time reactions. And I agree, people have just gotten meaner and meaner, and you don't want to bomb either.
Well, it's also people being mean about somebody they've never met. And I don't know, the early days of roasts, this would be a good oral history book. But like the ones that I fell in love with, Shaq used to have those comedy roasts.
Mm-hmm. He had a famous one. Was it the Emmett Smith one?
He had two. Yeah. He had the first one was with Shaq. It was just on Shaq and Jeff Ross. That was when I fell in love with Jeff Ross.
Yeah,
he just like completely crushed it. It was an all black audience. He just was comes out like just firing.
Yeah,
and it was great. But one of the funny parts was like half the people didn't know what a roast was. So you had people who got invited and they thought it was like a
tribute.
Yeah,
kind of thing? Yeah.
So then he had the other one with Emmett Smith and Moose Johnson, the fullback for the Cowboys, was up.
Did he throw a chair?
No, he did a roast But he didn't do a roast. It was like a speech. Like they were at like the
about like what it meant to be a cowboy.
Yeah, it was like one of those. So Jeff Frost followed him and he goes, sorry, Moose Johnson did all my shit. Like he made one of those jokes. And Moose Johnson's like, what? Like you insulted me?
Yeah.
And now everybody kind of knows what a roast is. The early 2000s, it was still, you could sneak it by people like Moose Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah. But still, I think when you do the private ones, it's a bad idea.
The private ones, what are those?
Like where someone's like, it's for charity or it's my friend's birthday party. And I rarely get invited. I always turn them down because I'm like, you really don't want me there. You don't want it.
Have you done one of those?
Never. I've only been invited to like 2. They have them all the time, but I'm like the last guy you would want. Like that's one of the reasons I stopped doing them was because they did the Franco roast and they were like, they don't want you. And I was like, why? I kill. And they were like, yeah, but as of right now, we've got Natalie Portman and Kate Hudson is on the dais. Like, we don't want you going after them. And I was like, I kind of see your point. You know, like these are like Hollywood princesses, and they ended up bailing anyway and not being a part of the roast. But once they kind of said that, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get nicer. You know, I'm not going to tone this down. I just have to be able to ramp it up. Like you said, like how high can you go before it's just a complete atrocity?
The saddest roast was the Chevy Chase one. Were you at that one?
I wasn't at that one. I don't think I was even doing comedy when that came out, but that is one of my favorite roasts. It's a total shit show.
It's an unbelievable YouTube extended clip or whatever, wherever you can find it.
You have to find it on YouTube. Like when I did my first roast, I was like, Comedy Central, give me all of them so I can watch them all. And then like, we've got everything except the Chevy Chase roast. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have it? And then like, look it up on YouTube. Like we destroyed it. Like it's.
Oh, they destroyed it?
Because they never wanted to rerun it. It was just to them, it was a fiasco. And that was the one where like they took it from the Friars and they did it themselves. And that's why I love it so much. It's like, it's Todd Barry. Yeah. It's Andy Kindler. It's Stephen Colbert. People who you'd never think would roast doing their version of it. But to a completely disinterested and hurt Chevy Chase.
Who from 5 minutes in, his feelings were hurt. He wasn't selling the jokes anymore, and it was the worst 3 hours of his life.
No, I mean, being roasted is an art unto itself.
Yeah.
You know, if you sit back and throw your head back and laugh every time someone makes a joke about you, you're the star of the roast. They keep cutting to you. But if you just sit there with your sunglasses on looking ticked off, then everyone's just awkward. Yeah.
That's why Shaq was so great way back when.
Yeah.
Because Shaq has great reactions. Like you want people reacting the same way they would react during the dunk contest or something.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
like
totally.
Throw their arms out, kick their head back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Laughing.
I mean, imagine if remember the Flavor Flav roast?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if Flavor Flav had thought those jokes were racist and they were all racist, but he didn't think so. Like if he had just sat there and been like, "What? Why? How can you say that to me?" That roast would have been over quick. But he laughed so hard at every one that it was great.
When I was working for Kimmel, he was the MC. I think it was Courtney Love. Is that possible? It is.
Courtney
right?
Love Courtney was on the dais for.
Oh, it was Pamela Anderson.
Either Pamela Anderson.
It was Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
And it was a much longer day. I actually took house. It was in the other room. It was like 3.5, 4 hours. Because you see the edited version, but you don't see, you see like the best parts of everybody's roast, but it's actually like twice as long.
Yeah.
And it drags in some points.
Oh, for sure.
And if you have somebody who's bad and it's not going well early, it really feels like it's an hour.
But that's what they used to do is when they would show it on TV, like before they went into commercial break. You would see like the guy who played Big Pussy on The Sopranos, like saying a sentence as they went to break. And you were like, oh, I guess it didn't go well. Or he just told a story.
Definitely not.
But now it's like people in the theater tweeting like the Big Pussy's bombing, you know? So they've got to show it after that.
Did you ever hear about the ESPN roast that they did once? They did one for Mike and Mike and all tapes were destroyed after. I wonder how many times that's happened.
Oh, I think anytime they've taped it, like 90% of the time they destroy the tapes.
Can you think of a worse idea than ESPN, who in the mid-2000s was pretty humorless, as I can tell you because I was working there?
Yeah.
Being like, you know what would be good? A roast. And alcohol. What could go wrong?
I can't believe they even had alcohol. I mean, to do a roast, like after the Norm Macdonald ESPYs, monologue,
that
they were
which
like
had to have been another great moment in your life.
Huge. Love that. And I just thought that's how these things go. Like, how amazing. I didn't think like Norm's breaking the mold. It was just like, this is how this is. But when Jimmy Kimmel hosted a few years later, I wrote some jokes for him. And in his contract, he was like, I get to do what I want. And then they cut my jokes.
Oh.
I had like 2 or 3 jokes that they cut out of before it went to air. And Kimmel was furious and then printed the jokes. So like my jokes got more traction than they would have if he had actually said them. But he was like, I'm never doing this again. I can't trust you.
Well, the good thing was I was directly in the middle of that because I was the one promising him it would go okay with ESPN.
Yeah, it's just like
they cut his monologue from like 8 minutes to 4. And as I was watching, it was like, and people always say this, but this really was true. Like, I would say he got like 5 really huge laughs, like big, just jokes that just crushed. And I think all of them came out. So it was the combo of being edited, but then also like what they edited.
He made me less funny.
Yeah. He was out of his mind. And this is what I had been complaining to him the whole decade. I was like, they fucking took 3 jokes out of my draft diary. And so he would hear it. He'd been hearing it from me for years, but that was way worse what happened to him because he knew in the room he had done well.
Well, a place like ESPN, they don't need humor. You know, they like it. They like the idea of it. But they're like, I've done some work for the NFL Network, and they're even worse. They're like, don't you dare make a joke. And if you do, it better be about like clowns or something because you can't make fun of these athletes. So when you're at the ESPYs and everyone you're making fun of is in the audience, they're not happy. Like they used to hire a comedian to host the porn awards. Yeah. Like the adult video awards. And every year the comic just completely bombed because they're making fun of porn and porn stars to an audience of porn stars. And they have no sense of humor about themselves.
First of all, you act like I didn't watch that every year on Showtime. It was always the best 10 minutes of the year from an unintentional comedy point.
Oh, I used to fantasize about it until it got to Showtime. And I was like, well, if it's on Showtime, how good can this really be? You know, if it had been on like, if you got to buy it for $99.99 on pay-per-view, I would have done it every year.
It's like, Ron Jeremy's in the house.
Yeah.
A lot of that. It was great.
Someone, a porn star on Twitter got in touch with me and she was like, hey, do you want to come to the Pornhub Awards this Saturday? And I go,
the Pornhub Awards?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
I guess it is now.
Oh.
I think it's the first year, maybe second.
Great.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to be out of town. She was like, oh, as if like, why wouldn't you cancel what you're doing to come to the Pornhub Awards?
The Pornhub Awards. Who's hosted the Pornhub Awards?
I don't know who hosted. I have no idea. It was Aza Akira who invited me, but I did not know who hosted.
That was Dave, my friend David Cho's old podcast partner.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's a podcaster.
Was she on?
Well, everyone's a podcaster at this point.
Yes.
Even you have a podcast.
I have a podcast.
I wanted you to have a podcast here.
I know. We were. It was hotly debated, but you were not very patient.
No, that's not what happened. That's not what happened.
We were like, you're like, we were doing a podcast. Great. And I'm like, I've got an agent getting offers from 5 different places. And then by that time, football season started. Greg had a thing with his contract. He was trying to do with the NFL. The season
already started. That was the thing. I was like, can we just wait till next year so we can do the whole season?
Yeah. And by that time that happened, then I had a deal with Comedy Central that was like for 8 different things and the podcast.
Yeah.
But it was either here or there. And Greg had a thing where, since he works for the NFL Network, Greg Rosenthal, there was a thing in his contract where a non-compete clause.
Yeah.
We were worried if we were at the Ringer, they might look at that more closely.
So why'd you just blame me? You blame me. This was
because we could have slid it through. We could have gotten through. You were our first choice for a long time.
I'm still here.
The words we don't know if we have room for it. We're definitely
that's not true.
Were said to
that didn't come from me.
That's what I was told. And people lie to me all the time, so I would believe it.
We don't know if we have room for it. That's ridiculous.
You already have a podcast. You already have an NFL podcast. And we also thought if we came here,
we have like 4 basketball podcasts.
Like our podcast, it's supposed to be about sports, but we almost never talk about sports.
Right.
Maybe one off the field issue thing, but then it's like some kid brought Coke to kindergarten. Like we like stuff like that.
Well, this Greg Rosenthal was your buddy from way back when, right?
Yeah, we met from our freshman year of college, so 1997.
What college?
Tulane. Yeah.
Tulane,
New Orleans for 4 years. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was fucking amazing, man. I mean, it was the best 4 years of my life, hands down. I mean, cannot be recaptured, cannot be repeated. I'll go back to New Orleans once a year just to eat. But I mean, the things you could do to your body, 18 to 22. I mean, just
I can't even imagine.
Full Mardi Gras every year with like off classes, just not going to sleep for 4 days. I mean, it was amazing.
Everybody I've ever met who went to Tulane, I'm always like, oh my God, whoa. And everyone just laughs before they answer how was Tulane? Because it was indescribable. New Orleans is my Achilles heel city. It's got every single vice that I care about.
Really?
Including like food that you can't resist, but then you feel terrible for like 18 hours.
Yes.
And you're combining that with the Harris Casino that's right downtown that I've had a lot of great nights in and all the other things New Orleans brings to the table, and I just can't handle it.
It bums me out that it's not a great comedy town. Like, I've gone back to Tulane to perform, and they don't care. Like, I've gone back to New Orleans a couple of times. They're like Miami, and they're not a comedy city. You know, they have their music, they have their entertainment. They just want to talk to each other and drink. And I understand.
It's like LA is not a book tour city.
No,
because there's too much to do here to be like, I'm gonna go meet this person who wrote a book that I liked. But if you go to like Chicago, the best.
People pour out.
Yeah. What do you think? What are the best comic cities?
God, I mean,
like when you have like your schedule, what are the ones that you're like, oh, that place? Yes.
Chicago's a great one.
Chicago, the people are the best.
Yeah. Chicago is always amazing. Minneapolis is a great one. Atlanta is a great comedy town. Atlanta. You'd be surprised. Nashville is a really good one. And like in the South, there's just certain markets I've never been to. Like they just have their own comedians that you've never heard of. You're just like, oh, okay. I think I said Minneapolis already. I love Pittsburgh. New York, of course, is great. There's very few bad comedy towns.
When you're in Pittsburgh, is that like when CM Punk used to go back to Chicago? Like same kind of reaction?
They don't know I'm from Pittsburgh.
Really?
Yeah, I have to go out and tell them
to wear like a Steelers jersey.
I have to tell them when I graduated high school and which high school, because otherwise they're just like, you don't sound like you're from Pittsburgh. You don't look like you're from Pittsburgh. I'm not Billy Gardell wearing like a jersey on my album cover. Then I don't talk about Pittsburgh things. That they're always surprised.
Wearing like a Bettis jersey.
Yeah.
Yager.
I just had to get a new jersey. I just had to. I had like 3 Antonio Brown jerseys. I was like, I just can't. After I kept like holding on to Antonio, I was like, you know what? I still love the guy. I still love him. And then when he went after Juju, I was like, man.
That was a weird move.
You already won. What are you doing?
Yeah. That felt like jealousy to me. Like somebody who leaves a TV show and then they replace him with the new lead of the show.
Yeah.
Like if Caruso had gone after Jimmy Smits and NYPD Blue or something.
Yeah.
There's some ego stuff going on there that had nothing to do, I don't feel like, with Juju. It was just like, that's the next guy. I got to lob my grenade at him.
Yeah. It just made no sense. It just seemed like spoiled spilled milk.
He was here. We didn't do a podcast, but he came in and hung out for an hour, but Antonio Brown before he got traded. And I gotta say, he talked me into it in about 45 minutes. But I'm one of those people, if I'm in the room with somebody, they always win me over.
Sure.
But yeah, by the end of it, I was like, yeah, you do need a new team. I mean, screw those guys.
I understood Le'Veon Bell, everything that he did. I wasn't happy about it, but I understood. Antonio Brown, it was like, you're not going to sacrifice your body for a year where they're just going to run you into the ground knowing you're gone next year anyway.
True.
You're just taking that money. Why not wait?
It just feels like he lost money, though.
I think he did too. But I understood his point of view on it.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown was like, you want on another team? Great. But why are you throwing your trade value into the toilet every chance you get for this team that's done so much for you? I mean, they paid him a lot of money. He's gotten a lot of stats. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame for what he did as a Steeler, not as for what he's going to do as a Raider. That I just thought, I wish he'd done it differently.
What would be your opener for the Antonio Brown roast?
Fuck you. Fuck all your kids who look just like you. Something like that.
Do you think he would be a bend over laughing guy, or do you think he would be a Chevy Chase just silently smoldering the whole time?
Sunglasses on, wide, fake smile the entire time.
Fake smile the entire time.
He'd only laugh if he made fun of other people. But there's that there's that in between. You just got a big smile on your face. Like I remember when I did Last Comic Standing, Keenan Ivory Wayans hated me. But he knew if the cameras cut to him looking mad, he would look like a jerk. So he just had like a huge smile on his face all the time that I knew.
Why did he hate you?
Because no one expected me. They thought I was going to come out and host. And I was like, no, I'm taking this show over.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it my own and make fun of the judges, make fun of the contestants. I'm the best stand-up comic in 3 square miles from here. And I'm going to let everyone know.
Yeah.
And they cut all of that out. They cut it off. Yeah. They told me, they're like, Anthony, we cut everything that made you look like an asshole. And I was like, why do you think I did the show? To look like an asshole on Last Comic Standing. That would have been so funny. I thought, honestly, I walked out of Last Comic thinking I could get an Emmy for hosting a reality show. That's how crazy it was.
And Jeff Probst was like, no.
Yeah, no.
This is mine.
I think Ellen won it for Game of Games or something.
No.
Yeah. Wasn't even nominated.
Let's take a quick break to talk about Vudu, a leading streaming app with a library of over 150,000 titles available to rent or buy, from the latest blockbusters to your favorite indie films. They also have an ad-supported on-demand service with over 8,000 titles you can watch for free, including classic movies and TV shows. You'll be surprised how many good ones are on there, from Legally Blonde to Stargate, all free. They are also the presenting sponsor of the Rewatchables podcast, where we will soon be covering John Wick 2. Favorite. Oh, my dad just jerked his head up. Watch it for free on Vudu before you tune into the next episode. Vudu is available whenever you watch TV, and they make it easy to access all your favorite entertainment with the click of a button. Enjoy Vudu on your smart TV, Roku, Chromecast, iPhone, Android, online, no subscription, no contracts, just free entertainment. As you know, I use Vudu. My son loves Vudu more than anyone. They just had the Karate Kid trilogy, which was that they'll do these bundles every once in a while where it'll be like 4 movies for half price or 1/3 off, or everybody, all the Fast and Furious movies, 5 Judd Apatow movies. So check those out too. They have some really good deals if you like buying movies. Head to vudu.com/rewatchables to sign up and start watching today. Catch up on John Wick 2 before next week's Rewatchables episode at vudu.com/rewatchables. Back to Jeselnik. Who would be the best who would be your dream athlete to roast right now? Who do you think would react the best? Who has the best material?
I mean, everyone always talks about Shaq, like you said. Shaq is Comedy Central always thinks about getting him, bringing him on a roast, or doing one of him.
How do you think LeBron would handle it?
I think LeBron would be too controlling as to who he booked. Like Comedy Central always thinks if they class it up, they're going to get George Clooney. They're going to get Brad Pitt. And it's like, no, if these guys wanted to do that, they would do it themselves and control it all.
Yeah.
Like Dennis Leary's roast way back in the day, one of the first on Comedy Central, he had total control over what jokes were used and who was on the dais. So I think that would be
there's
the
like
problem.
no Bill Hicks jokes.
Those are the only things they cut. But anytime someone mentioned Hicks, Leary had it gone. There was no reason to even do that. But athletes do not have a great sense of humor. I mean, a person who would be fun to roast, like a Floyd Mayweather, would be fun to go after.
I think he'd be good.
Like Mike Tyson is the only person I've ever felt bad about roasting. I truly love the man, and I felt bad making fun of him. And he was like laughing, and he was pretty high, a little drunk, and like getting through it. But you just like, I felt like this guy's struggling. I don't love smacking him around right now, because I loved him growing up.
Kobe would be kind of the most riveting roast, and I feel like it would end at halfway through.
Oh yeah,
it would just be like over.
Yeah, I can't even.
And I think he'd be mad the whole time.
I just think none of these guys have a good sense of humor about themselves. Like if you got like Jason Witten on the dais, you know what I mean? He would be furious within like 5 seconds. Like, there's no way.
Be a lot of stuff about what was going on with his hair.
Yeah. Or being the worst Monday Night Football announcer of all time.
You think he was all time?
I can't think of anyone worse. There have been some bad ones.
There's so many bad announcers right now. We're in this is a bad announcer heyday right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't believe it. I mean, God bless him. He's a legend, but Hubie Brown's doing the Celtics series this round. And it's like, I mean, he's like 88 at this point. It's just, can I have somebody who's not just going to read the box score and might point out some stuff with the game, please?
With basketball, I can't really tell how bad an announcer is. Baseball, it's very obvious, which is why I think there are fewer bad announcers in baseball. But in football, if you're bad, you've got like 3 minutes to show how bad you are in between every play, that it really shines.
Well, and also you have Romo, his former teammate, who is so much fun.
Just killing it, from the get-go. Just that enthusiasm.
I think it's weird when the guys lose it. Like, I always felt like Sims was pretty good. Not great, but he was good. He's passable.
Yeah.
And then the last couple years, he was completely unlistenable. And I just want to know what happened.
It's funny. I think I was just too young that he was like grandfathered in for me. That like I always remember him. I remember him more as an announcer than as a quarterback.
Really?
From growing up. That when he started to lose it, it was like, oh, that's Phil Simms. I didn't realize that he was, but I guess you're right.
I remember Madden and Summerall. Madden never really 100% lost it, but he definitely was better in the early years. Like I would say anybody.
His
Summerall, though, it was tough to tell with Summerall that he lost it because his style was, very short sentences and stuff. But When he's just getting names wrong, that's usually the sign with announcers.
When they would show them in the booth toward the end, you were like, "Oh man, these guys aren't going to make it through the game."
Juice?
Yeah,
yeah.
That was rough.
So you think LeBron would control the whole thing, roast wise?
100%.
What about Tom Brady? I feel like he would be laughing the whole time and almost like not getting the jokes.
I believe that 100%. Like I had friends who wrote for Peyton Manning on the ESPYs when he hosted. And then like a lot of times they had to explain the joke to him. And he would deliver it perfectly, but he wouldn't get what the joke was.
And he's considered to be one of like the super funny athletes.
Mm-hmm. And I think he can be. I just think you have to tell him. I'm sure he probably just takes direction really well. You know, some people don't.
I've talked about this on pods before, but the whole concept of athlete funny, I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
When an athlete is supposedly hilarious, but it's only in the context of other athletes.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you actually put him with a hilarious person, he's not hilarious.
A total disaster.
Yeah.
I was like, O.J. Simpson, of course, from
I've heard of him.
The Double Murder was hilarious. And then you go back and try to watch Naked Gun now, and you're like, that's not as good. He peaked.
He did. They should deep fake the O.J. scenes and put Barry Sanders in there or something. Try to save it. Because that was like an iconic mid-'80s movie.
Oh, yeah.
And it's impossible to watch it now without the O.J. part just overshadowing all of it.
It's not impossible because he's not in it that much. And it's so funny. And he's like the Roadrunner in that movie where he's always getting beaten up and tortured that you don't like, you're laughing at him, getting like dragged by a bus for across the country. That it's not as hard to watch as I would have thought.
It's funny watching these movies with my kids, the movies that I grew up on, and some of this stuff is so inappropriate. I mean, my kids, they'll roll with anything, but like the original Vacation, first of all, they dragged the dog and there's just a leash left. And my daughter was so upset about that scene. She just wanted to stop the movie. I thought it was hilarious, but they put the grandmother in the car and they drive like 1,000 miles with her. I don't know if they would do that now. There's a lot of like, I'm not sure this would go now.
Yeah, I didn't see the new Vacation, but I was wondering like how do they change this to...
They made it less funny.
I got to imagine.
I don't like when they redo the classics.
No.
If I can still watch the old movie, don't touch it.
Yeah. Especially a comedy. There's no reason to remake The Bad News Bears.
Have you had offers to be like the lead in a comedy or anything?
Like I've had offers to be in the lead in something that's like super low budget and it's never going to get made and never has been made. But usually it's like someone will offer me something and I'm like, I'm on tour right now. If I wasn't, I would be happy to. Like I just met with like the head of a movie studio. And he's like, would you ever want to be in a movie? And I'm like, yeah, if the head of a movie studio calls me his favorite comedian and says, here's a movie role for you, I'm happy to do it. Am I going to run through auditions?
Right.
No, I'm not. But you know what I can do. I've proven it. Give me the part and I'm there. And I'll show up and do as well as I can.
I'm surprised you don't have like one rom-com in your background where you're like the lead guy's best friend who doesn't like the new girlfriend and it's just doing these PG-13 insults. And then a year later, you really regret being in the movie. Anytime
they described it as like cute, or I knew that they wanted someone just like a good-looking young guy to be like the kind of the smart ass, I rejected it immediately.
That was it?
I wanted to play evil, not kind of the smart aleck, I wanted to be like a villain.
You want to be like the Skeet Ulrich and Scream? Like that kind of guy. It turns out you're the killer at the end. You've taken everyone's virginity first.
The example I always used was I wanted to be Craig Kilborn in Old School.
Old School.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know who else wants to be Craig Kilborn in Old School? Craig Kilborn. Yeah.
That was a pretty big letdown watching that. Like that movie was so funny, and he was just not funny in any of his scenes.
Oh, you didn't think so?
No.
I actually enjoyed how ridiculous the casting was. That it made me enjoy his scenes.
I mean,
I don't think I enjoyed them for the reason he thought I was enjoying them.
He was in it so little that it didn't like ruin the movie for me, but I was like, oh, this is a missed opportunity. Like Jeremy Piven is in that movie and isn't funny. That I'm like, why is he? I know why he's playing this character, but they should have given him more to do. But that movie holds up.
Jeremy Piven's been in a lot of stuff that did you know he was in Major League? We just did a rewatchables on Major League and they cut him out of Major League. He was on the bench as an Indian like bench jockey guy, like who yelled insults out, and they just cut all of his scenes out.
Really?
Yeah. He's got like a really interesting IMDb background.
That's funny.
This 80s, 90s stuff.
I had no idea.
What about Entourage you could have done?
Yeah, they never came to me for Entourage, but I would have definitely done that show. I saw every episode of that, just like hate watch, just like I can't believe this is a real thing. Went and saw the movie opening day, and like couldn't believe the people unironically laughing. Like it'd be like, "Come on, bro," and they'd be like, "Haha!" I'm like, "Are you serious? This still gets you?"
I hope they make another one.
If they made another movie, I mean that movie did so badly.
It did.
That there's no way they
missed
make
its
another
moment.
One. For sure.
It was about 2 years too late.
Yeah,
I think. So what happens now? This Netflix special comes out. I meant to ask you, what was different about this special? What was your mindset going into it? It seemed like the pace of it, you slowed down even more than usual with your style. Like you were really trying to create like an atmosphere with it.
Yeah, part of that was I just wanted the jokes to, like, Thoughts and Prayers was like an angry special. It was like, I got to get this off my chest. Whereas I wanted this just to be like, almost like a rock show. Let's just have fun and have every joke just be great and go into it. That I really put a lot of thought into. And for the first time, I thought about how it would be as a special.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about that for years instead of just, all right, we're doing this now. What do we want to do? Then I know I wanted to work with somebody big. Like I got A24 to produce it and they were great. I knew how I wanted it to open. And I kept thinking about the first show. You know, every comic who tapes a special tapes 2 shows back to back. And the first one's usually bad. Yes. Almost occasionally someone will tape just one and you can tell because they don't have things they can like move around to. If something goes wrong, they have to leave it in. Usually they tape 2 that night in a theater or wherever. And the first one's bad because I'm off. Like I'm like, in my first tapings, I'm like, I'll be a little sweaty. You're just like, you want to get it right. And the audience is good, but you're just not yourself. And so this time I really was like, that first one's going to be great. I'm going to make sure it's great. To the point that I went out and had mentally prepared myself enough that it was. Like, that was like, I thought that was the better show between the 2 tapings. And to the point where I almost didn't want to go out for a second show. I was like, maybe I'll just go out and screw around, or maybe I'll just like, maybe I'll leave. Like, who cares? And then we did the second, and then they go, John Mulaney and Nick Kroll are here to watch the second show. And I was like, my friends are here. I got to go out and kill it. You know, I can't let them see me do a bad show. So did that. And then afterwards, the director comes back and he's like, that was great. We're definitely using the second show. And I was like, what do you mean? The first show was amazing. And he's like, we got better coverage in the second show. Just after watching you do it once, we were able to like, and I was like, oh, well, I'm glad I didn't just throw it out the window. But
Jesus,
but that was one of the things I thought hard about, and it still benefits you because when you need to go back to the first show to cut something out, you look good. It looks the same. But that's what I really prepared for on this one.
One of the things I like when you do comedy is when you get mad at the audience and you take their reactions personally and you put them on the defensive, which is a really hard thing to pull off.
Totally. I mean, usually that
can go really wrong in the wrong hands.
I've never had it go. It always gets a laugh from me if you keep it short and you go back to being normal. Like if you lose your temper, it's always going to be bad.
Yeah.
But I yell at crowds who are laughing, you know, for not laughing hard enough, and people love that.
Yeah.
It's rare that, and if I know a joke is just like this joke should be getting a bigger laugh and it doesn't. Like if a joke is too smart and that's the only reason. Like I went on like a European tour where I was like, are they going to understand what I'm saying? And they got jokes that American audiences didn't get.
Really?
Like they just They know they understand English better than they can speak it, and so they got all the nuance that some American audiences just totally missed.
I used to love Carson. It was my favorite Carson thing when he would take it personally when he didn't get a laugh on something.
Oh, yeah.
And then Letterman learned to do his variation of that. And I remember the first couple years with Kimmel because he was really new as a host, and it took him probably, I don't know, 2-3 years to almost stop when a joke didn't work. Because initially, if you don't have the experience, the habit is just to rush to the next one because the silence made you uncomfortable or like the lack of reaction. And it's so funny watching him now. Like he fucking loves it when the joke doesn't work. Sometimes that's funnier than when the joke works.
Oh yeah, the facial expression when a joke bombs is better than anything else. Conan's great at it.
Yeah, I think the reps of doing a show like that, eventually you're going to get good at knowing how to react.
Oh, I think you just find a way to fill out the time. Like I'm sure when I first start doing an hour, I'm doing 15 minutes. I'm thinking about that 15 minutes. Like I don't want to go short. I don't want to go long. And then you eventually just feel at home in the space, and then you can let everything breathe. But like Milton Berle had never told a good joke in his entire life. His whole act was telling a joke that didn't work, and then he would react to it in a way that killed everybody.
Uncle Milty.
Yeah.
Legendary SNL hosting performance by him.
Yeah, didn't they?
It's prominently featured in all of the books about SNL.
Didn't he just break out of every sketch and just refuse to do it?
He was mugging, and it was like everything they never wanted that show to be.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, I've asked a couple of people this that come through about comedy classes, where it's almost like sports, where the guys in the late 80s, early 90s, they're kind of clustered and they all kind of came up doing the same clubs together and they're all friends, and then they kind of hit at different points around the same time. You kind of have your own class, it seems like. When you were coming up, when did you start doing comedy? Like 07, 08? So you're in there with Aziz, and
Aziz was in my class.
Mulaney.
Kind of Aziz, Mulaney. I would say almost 17 years in October I've been doing it. Aziz, Mulaney. Like BJ Novak was just like one like little class ahead of me.
Yeah.
Like I just remember like I would see BJ Novak on Premium Blend. And I would say, okay, you know what? Next year, I bet Dan Mintz gets Premium Blend. And the year after that, I'm going to get Premium Blend. And that's how it would work.
Yeah.
Like I just knew those guys and like their progression. And like, oh, BJ or Dan Mintz got the half hour. Next year, I'm going to get the half hour. And I would. There were people that I could follow, that aspirational jealousy of like, oh, this guy got it. That means I'm going to get it next. But yeah, my class, I would say Mulaney, Kumail Nanjiani, TJ Miller, Pete Holmes. Those are the guys, or Hannibal Buress, I would put in that class as well. Yeah, but then came from all over. I was one of the only guys in that class from LA. I met a lot of those guys when I moved to New York for a couple of years. They were all Chicago people or New York people.
Was Whitney Cummings in that class?
Whitney Cummings, I think, started right after me. She would be in that class too. Yeah. Yeah, she started in LA.
Do you feel like there's a class now, like a late 2010s group that's emerging, or is it just so different now with the internet?
It feels like some people are making big leaps. Like I would put Ali Wong in my class, but for a long time, Ali Wong was under the radar, and now she's like one of the biggest things in comedy.
Yeah.
But she never went anywhere. She didn't come from nowhere. I've been watching her grow as long as I've been doing stand-up. I got like Sebastian Maniscalco, who's like a couple years older than me, but and has always been working and now just suddenly blew up. That you'd be like, okay, I guess we're in a similar class. But the people below me couldn't name one. Like that's how little I know now. Like if I need an opener, I've got to call people and be like, who's young and good? Because I only watch people who I follow at the comedy store or at the Comedy Cellar. Otherwise, I'm not watching a lot of stand-up.
What's the best place to do it in LA?
Oh, the comedy. Actually, I'd say Largo. If you're lucky enough to be in that league, because Largo only takes a certain kind of comic, and you got to be able to sell the place out. $30 tickets. It's a big place. The store is more like you're going to see hundreds of people or like dozens of comics, and so it takes the pressure off. Where I don't do as well on a Comedy Store show because people aren't there. They're not all there to see me. But at Largo, they're all there to see me and whoever I brought. So they're good to them. So I'd say Largo's my favorite, with the Comedy Store being a close second.
You haven't played Kimmel's place yet in Vegas.
And it just opened up, right?
It just opened.
Yeah.
Everybody was going nuts about it. They actually spent a lot of money trying to make like the best possible comedy place. Because for some reason it didn't really happen in Vegas.
But it's a comedy club, right?
Comedy club, yeah.
I think that's the tough thing is that there's so many theaters that do it.
Yeah.
Like I always do the Mirage, like the Terry Fader Theater at the Mirage. That's like where Leno plays. You just do one night and get the hell out. The idea of staying in Vegas for a weekend and having shows to do at night is like my biggest nightmare. Like my biggest nightmare.
Do you gamble?
A little bit. I'll throw money on the sports book if I'm around for that. Like last time I played Vegas,
Steelers under.
Never bet on or against the Steelers.
Okay,
never
smart.
Because I don't want to double lose. Or like win the bet and lose the game, and then you're mixed up. That I'll call my friend Greg Rosenthal and be like, what 4 games are pretty much locks to you, and do that.
Then go the opposite way.
No, he's good. He's good. Yeah.
I've had I do bet on my own team. And it's been very profitable because I don't know if the Patriots have won 6 Super Bowls, so it's been really good.
I didn't.
I didn't know we're up to 6 now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Who heck? I was in Boston.
It's been great.
Someone heckled me. They were like, "Fuck!" What did they yell?
A Steelers thing?
It was something about
probably
the Steelers.
A Roethlisberger
and I was like, "Wait!" They go, Steelers suck, and I go, "Really?" I feel like it's been forever since we lost a Super Bowl, and it was right after you guys had lost. The last Super Bowl, and they were like, all right, pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. Yeah.
I want the Steelers-Pats rivalry not to die. It was good there for a while, and then I felt like we really had the upper hand there for 10 to 20 years.
We've never been underneath you ever.
20 years? I'm trying to remember. 96, I guess you had the upper hand. It was a long time ago.
I'll never forget that AFC Championship game where you guys just came out of nowhere and destroyed us.
Oh, all the special teams touchdowns.
Yeah.
2001.
Cordell Stewart just falling apart.
That's Cordell. Was the end of his career.
That was it for him.
It was
He was done.
It was unrecoverable.
That game was a disaster. That's why every Pittsburgh Steelers fan calls the two Super Bowls that the Giants when the Giants beat the Patriots the greatest non-Steelers Super Bowls ever.
It seems like a lot of people feel that way.
I enjoy, listen, I understand why the Patriots keep winning. I don't want to be like a hater and root against them.
Yeah.
But whenever like a story comes out about Brady and Kraft hating each other, or Brady and Belichick hating each other, I love it. Like I love to hear that they're all miserable, crying into their piles of money and Super Bowl trophies.
Brady was at the Kentucky Derby last weekend with
Amendola.
Yeah, he still does it. Like 15 of his dudes,
I can't
and they go and they just do the whole thing.
But wasn't it like a fact that Amendola was on Molly last time he was there, and he won and then was giving away free money? And you see him, he's wearing mirrored sunglasses and looks out of his mind.
I've heard variations of this story. I thought it was Welker though.
It was Welker. You're right.
But was it? I don't think it was confirmed that we knew what he was on, but he definitely just seemed super happy.
It was like you're too, even though you won, you're too happy and you're wearing sunglasses inside, which is something
sunglasses inside is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a rock star. And if you sunglasses inside and you're chill, it's like maybe he's just sensitive to light. Maybe he doesn't want fans bothering him. Sunglasses and I'm handing out cash to whoever wants it. You're probably on some drugs.
Red flag.
Yeah.
Do you want to make fun of Jeff Ross before we go?
I'd love to. I mean, it's hard. The guy's perfect in every way. But I just think it's cool that he's finally moved on from the roasting thing.
It's so
that
funny.
He's just like, I'm just going to get back into just pure stand-up and just leave this roast thing behind.
It's the funniest thing ever. We wrote for Jimmy for the AMAs one year in the 06, and he was like, I got to get out of roasting. I'm going to get pigeonholed. And everyone was kind of like, why? This is a great lane for you. Like, really? You think I should exploit it? And within 5 years, he was the roast master general. But it was he was the last one to realize this is great real estate for you.
He's also the only guy who could have stayed as long as he has stayed. It was just, he hit the right tone of lovable but silly. Like Lampanelli had a short lifespan there.
Yeah.
Geraldo, I don't know how much longer he could have kept doing it.
It was tough. He seemed to he was like an edge too angry to kind of have a 10-year lifespan with
his last 3 or 4 roasts, he almost had nothing to do with. It was a lot of it was written for him. He didn't care. He would just go up and just knew how to deliver it and knock it out of the park every time. But he didn't enjoy them. One of the reasons that I walked away after 3 was just knowing how miserable he was, seeing how happy Whitney was to walk away after 3.
Yeah.
That seemed like the right number to do. Yeah.
He loves
Ross will be there for, I think when Jeff Ross eventually passes, and I hope that's 40 years from
40
now.
40 years from now.
45 days from now. I don't think you can ever do a roast again. I don't know how you do it without him.
It does feel like they might have to retire it.
Yeah.
The funny thing with him is I met him in 2002, got to know him pretty well through Jimmy and those guys. And you could clearly see the course of his life where it's he idolized Rickles and those guys. And you knew when that guy's 70, he's going to be whatever that generation's version of Rickles is, still banging it out, still a great late night show guest, and all of those beats, and he's on his way.
He's the one comedian I know currently working today who could do a residency in Vegas
until he's 95
and have it not be embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Have it not be he wouldn't have to change his act. He wouldn't change anything. He could truly be himself and enjoy it, I think. Whereas for me, and I know a lot of people, that would be pure hell.
Well, he just loves making fun of people.
Mm-hmm. But he
walks into any room and he'll just see anybody and he'll be like, oh, look at this guy. And then all of a sudden he's going.
The speed roast stuff he does live now is amazing. I've done we did a college together and he's like, come on stage with me and do the speed roast.
Yeah.
And usually I've seen him do it in an audience with, a very diverse audience. And you've got all these different people. But in this college somewhere in New Jersey, it's 8 fucking white dudes who all look like Chad. Really? And then 1 girl. And Jeff's just going down the line. And he could tell, if I'm I've got a joke, Jeff would throw to me, what do you got? But if I didn't, I'm I hope he doesn't call on me. He wouldn't every time. And I was like, afterwards, I was like, how did you know that I didn't have a joke? And he was like, I've been doing this so long, I can just glance up at you and I know if you've got something or if I should just move on. Like he can just move it so easily that it's like a sixth sense.
I did when I was writing for Jimmy's show, he guest hosted for a week and we did speed roast on Hollywood Boulevard. And that was the idea. And it was like, so Jeff's going to go out and he's just going to speed roast people as they walk by. And I'm thinking like, how the fuck is he going to do this? Like, so he's just going to see the people and have a roast. And I was the writer assigned to it. And we had the camera crew and I'm like, this is going to be a fucking disaster. This is going to be the worst. And then he did it for like an hour.
Yeah.
And he was just grabbing everybody. And then like you know how weird Hollywood Boulevard is. It was like, he was like a kid in a candy store.
Well, he's gotten good. And like, I could never do that. If I started roasting people on Hollywood Boulevard, we get shot.
Yeah,
but Jeff, people like want to be roasted. It's like an honor, and like they're delighted by it. They're delighted to be made fun of by him. That only he can really pull that off.
I always like at the end of the roast when he's just crushed somebody for 12 minutes, and he's like, "With all that said, you're a great guy, and you've been a great spirit, and it's been an honor, and I've been a huge fan." And he has a way of diffusing it in 10 seconds before the hug.
Yeah,
that nobody else is as good at.
But everyone says those same words. You're like they like almost make you, but he's the only one who means it.
Right,
the only one.
He genuinely does mean it. I agree.
Yeah.
What is the greatest roast joke that you've been the most jealous of that anyone ever told?
Oh, for sure. Colin Quinn talking about Artie Lang, I think. Saying Artie Lang did so much cocaine in the 90s. He once got a handwritten thank you note from Pablo Escobar. Just the idea of Pablo Escobar writing someone a handwritten thank you note for all the coke they did killed me so hard. It was like the best joke of the whole roast.
That's a great joke.
I'll never forget that joke.
You know, some of Norm's Weekend Update stuff is online now from the mid-90s when he's telling jokes like that, but the audience isn't laughing and he's just staring in the camera. I would watch a documentary of those 3 Weekend Update years that Norm did where he just like didn't care.
Oh, yeah.
You almost got that job, right?
I mean, kind of, I auditioned for it.
You were in the mix for it.
And I thought I was like, the word was like, it's looking good. You know, like it got to the point where they were like, Lorne Michaels asked for your phone number. Lorne Michaels doesn't call people with bad news.
Yeah.
Someone else, and then a day went by and I was like, I'm not getting this. Something
Is that
happened.
a good thing or a bad thing?
At the time, it was a bad thing. And now it's a good thing. Like I've talked about this before, but like that was a dream. That was the only job I ever really wanted. But to go in and kill the audition where like you're in the suit and tie at the actual desk, the camera comes down and they say, "Ladies and gentlemen, for Weekend Update, Anthony Jeselnik." And when I heard that, it's the announcer, I just started laughing because I was so happy that my audition, like I just breezed through it. I had my own jokes. I got them to laugh and they never laugh.
Yeah.
And it was just Colin Yost having to tell the same jokes over and over again with just 8 different people. That I was like, maybe I took it. And then I think it was just a thing of timing of like, Colin only been doing it for a couple of months. We're going to give him another chance at it. That I really haven't watched the show since, but I was just like, oh, it's so hard to get that close to a job like that I need to just pour it all into the special. Like this whole special was like me getting over that.
Oh, really? So you were really traumatized by it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, not traumatized, but it was a disappointment that I was just like, I'm not going to I didn't want the story of me to be like, oh, did you hear what almost happened for him? You know? Like, you know the guy, Doug Ray Scott? The actor? He was the bad, you would recognize him for sure. He's been in a bunch of movies. He was like the bad guy in Mission Impossible 2.
I can't believe you just name dropped an actor and I'm drawing a blank. This is like the lowest moment of my 2019.
You might realize Doug Ray Scott was the bad guy in Mission Impossible 2. They had to do reshoots. So we had to drop out of X-Men. He was going to play Wolverine.
Oh.
Gave it to Hugh Jackman.
Oh.
And Doug Ray Scott has never gotten over it. And I'm like, I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be bitter about like an audition that didn't go well, no matter how badly I wanted it. I'm just going to make the next thing I do even better. And in the things that have happened to SNL over those years, I'm like, I don't know if I could have been there through the Trump episode. Not just because of like Trump being on the air, but like Trump telling me what jokes I'm going to tell. Like, no, that's never going to happen. That I don't know what I would have done, or if I would have lasted, or if the show might be better now than it would have been if I had gotten that job. But it certainly would have gone in a different direction.
I liked your Comedy Central show.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun, but it was. I don't have any regrets on that because it wasn't meant to live forever. You know, it was so like pushing the envelope and the network at the same time. Like I'm working on a new Comedy Central show right now that's just designed to be easy to do. Like I don't want to fight with the network. I just want to go shoot it. You guys have notes. You can do it in the edit, and we're done. But it's not. I think it'll be as good, but it won't be the same. Just fighting over joke after joke after joke.
Yeah. Well, those days might be over. Now you can just get right to people. I think that whole day of the network notes thing is heading toward a slow ending.
I mean, even when I did my podcast with Comedy Central, they were like, "You're going to have standards and practices," and I was like, "What do you mean it's a podcast?" And I go, "We sell our ads throughout the network, so you still can't do it." And I was like, I'm not taking this deal if I have to do that. So in my contract, they're not allowed to give me notes on the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, who would sign up for this if they didn't have to? And our podcast isn't so offensive that you're worried about what you're going to say,
right?
But it's all those rules are weird, and you can circumvent them easily now.
What do the next couple of years look like for you?
I mean, I'll do this show for a little bit, and I assume I'm going to want to jump back into stand-up. I think I have at least one more special left in me. But I just turned 40 a few months ago, and I'm looking at I used to think I would retire at 40 from stand-up, like still work and do things, but just be done with stand-up. But I think I got one more in me at least, if not two, maybe 50.
When you're out there, how many people are you playing to now?
Anywhere from, if I'm doing a club, I sell out the club before I get to town. No matter how big it is or how small it is. If I do a theater,
but how many people is that?
I mean, it could be as many as stand up live in Phoenix seats 600. So you sell out 5 shows of that, 3,000 people. But usually it's about 1,500 to 2,000 people. And I'm thinking on the next tour, I'd probably in the 3,000 range just from this special. It's like Thoughts and Prayers built up goodwill, and now it's a different time for Netflix comedies. I think more people watch them.
Just wait till you get the Ringer podcast. That's
oh my god,
up to like 5,000.
I'm going to use this as leverage. I'm going to be like, listen to me and Bill talk about how things could have been. My contract's up in 10 weeks. You can.
Is it
us.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I said we have the.
It's not even going to be a stealing. I'm just going to take it.
We have the pickup. That's what I thought walking out of the SNL audition, man. You got to.
I'll call you in one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Call.
Can you do it every week though?
That's the thing. That's the thing now that I want to pull back on. We did a deal for 40 in a year. Yeah. But I was like, I don't want if I have time off, I don't want the only reason I'm stuck in LA to be the podcast.
Yeah, but you don't have to do it in LA.
They say you can do it on the phone, but I like doing it because I'm with my best friend and we're messing around. I don't want to do that over the phone. That's a contractual obligation. I don't want to have to do that. So I think we might try to do some fewer episodes. So I'd like to go live in Berlin for a month. Now that I have kind of money and success and I can really go somewhere and write. I stayed in LA and wrote for a year before I started taking this hour on the road at all. I'd like to be able to go to another country and write. Sounds
Berlin.
Great. Yeah, Berlin was fun, man.
Germans are there.
Berlin was fun. I had a great time in Berlin.
They make great cars.
It's true. It's true. And they've lost some wars.
All right, we'll talk. We'll negotiate.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
Lost some wars. Kyle, you've done a good job of not laughing too much.
I've been keeping it under wraps.
I've heard you guffawing a lot. He was excited for this one.
Good. Good.
All right, Anthony, a pleasure as always.
Always, man.
All right, good to see you. All right, thanks for listening. Don't forget to go to DAZN.com if you want to sign up for DAZN. Don't forget about the Rewatchables 1999 Big Daddy. And don't forget about the Rewatchables John Wick 2 coming next week as well as Notting Hill and the Rewatchables 1999 feed. Don't forget about the Game of Thrones, our post-game show, Talk the Thrones, # Talk the Thrones on Twitter, as well as the Binge Mode podcast. All the Thrones content we putting up, and Throne Game with me and Rosillo Sunday night. We're doing it again, Kyle.
Can't wait.
Food, basketball, and then a little Thrones as well. So we will see you late on Sunday night. Until then.